Okay, I feel I need to keep going with this because, you know, looking over your old comments, there's just so much material there that just simply picking up 3 is ludicrous. I mean, we really need to, I really need to break this down, not just for the audience to see, because I know there are going to be other Christians who are going to come on here, and these are the type of arguments they present, so they really need to have somebody else spell it out for them, you know, in this light, just how weak they are. And I'm also hoping it's a chance to get you to, you know, quiet down, you know, wait before you start typing a response and really think about what you're presenting here. Because it's ridiculous. It's obvious to anybody who's using this. I stumbled upon a statement of yours that I missed, which I think goes to show just how much you don't understand the topics we're discussing. You are not equipped to deal with the intellectual arena. You may take that as an insult now, because at one point you were asking me, why are you insulting me? And I'm not insulting you. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're considering it an insult when I say that what you're saying is kind of stupid or what you're saying is delusional. The fact of the matter is, it is. And I'm about to show you what I mean. And also for anyone else watching this, whether Christian or not, pay attention to this. This is exactly what I'm talking about by someone who is ill-equipped to deal with discussions like these. When you are coming up with your whole proofs and theories, not realizing that you're mocking things that you take advantage of day by day, including the computer that you're using to watch this and respond to me, I then try to give you an example of showing you how ridiculous it is to mock the scientific process when I presented to you how proofs and theories actually work. I gave you a very, very simplistic example. Very simplistic, so of course it's bound to some faults, but it should, for anybody who's thinking, figure out what I'm trying to say. I said, look, here's a basic example. 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's a statement. Now most people see that as an answer. No, 2 plus 2 equals 4 is a statement. It is, in a sense, a miniature theory. And remember when we were in math, we used to say, well, all right, now I want you to prove your answer. We got to figure out how to prove the answer. So you kind of have to reverse engineer it, see if it stands up to water. Well, if we take 2 away from 4, you end up with 2. So that proves it. You then came back with this. I'm sorry, but what you have just performed was a simple mathematical calculation, not a theory. A theory is something like gravity. You drop a rock, it falls, theory stands proven. Do you realize how much you showed your ass, excuse the expression, when you said that? Just how much you have shown complete ignorance of how the scientific process works when you said that? Because simply holding a rock in the air and dropping it does not prove the theory of gravity. Because the theory of gravity explains why the rock falls. It doesn't just simply say that the rock falls. I'm wondering. The reason why I left that silence there was for that to sink in. You don't know what a theory is, and you just showed it with that statement. And this is something that atheists and scientists and agnostics have been trying to say to you, religious people and creationists, ever since the debate began. You don't know anything about science. And you consistently show it with everything you say about the subject. When you are trying to prove a theory, and this is another thing that kind of blew my mind. When you go, that's just a mathematical calculation. That's not proving it. Proving is just dropping a rock. Why do you think scientists use mathematical calculations to begin with? Because the mathematical calculations are what they use to prove their scientific theories. E equals mc squared, anyone? Mathematical equations are consistently used in science to prove theories. Mathematics is the backbone of a hell of a lot of science in the world these days. So you just simply going, that's a mathematical equation, it's got nothing to do with science. Once again, shows your ignorance of the matter. You don't know what you're talking about. And all me and many other people are trying to get you to realize is that you don't know what you're talking about, so stop talking about it. Do research. This whole thing started because of my Kent Hovind video. And my Kent Hovind video, I have a list of links to scientific sites and scientific databases which explain many of the things that you guys are confused about. I didn't put those links up there for my help. It was for your understanding. And you consistently say that's garbage and then show why you desperately need to read them. I've harped on that long enough, but I think that point alone shows you are ill-equipped to talk about this stuff. Let's talk about God's love, which is something that you consistently bring up. I find it interesting that you keep talking about God's love is divine, God's love is divine, God is the only true love. Loving human beings isn't, we devolve into sex and drugs, and we need to learn to love God. God is all about love. To explain just the faults of that would take a whole other video, but suffice to say, me and several other people had already pegged you for that. But one thing I found interesting was that when we pointed out, well, I pointed out, that only a maniac would demand that someone else love them, because love doesn't work that way. You can't demand love from someone. Either you love someone or you don't. It doesn't matter what they do for you or who they are in your life. If you don't feel any love for them, you don't feel any love. And by the way, somebody doing something for you is not a prerequisite for love. People do things for me all the time, and I'm grateful for it, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to love them for it. You understood that, and you admitted, yes, it's true, we can't force people to love each other, and then you immediately segued into a whole lot of other BS that had nothing to do with the topic. Now, I find this interesting because that showed how your mind worked pretty well. I presented the argument showing you that if God is demanding that people love him in the Bible and in your teachings, then he obviously doesn't know how love works. So how could somebody like this be the source of divine love when he can't even understand it himself? Now, you admitted that it makes no sense for somebody to demand love of someone. And this is where your brain died, because you didn't put two and two together. You completely segued into how it's God's still the source of love. Dude, start using this. Stop turning it off. If you say that it is impossible and insane for someone to demand that someone love them, and yet God, according to your teachings, is doing just that, what's the logical conclusion? I'm shaking my head because I'm pretty sure that still didn't get through. Last thing, I had to write these down, and I'm running out of time anyway. The Bible problems, and I think this perfectly segues into the biblical problems. When we were pointing out many of the atrocities in the Bible, and why we don't accept that this is a moral guideline to follow, and this is why we don't follow this religion because of the crap that's in there, and we presented plenty of examples, so many. You went into what I like to call the pick and choose argument. The whole, well, and I noticed that you conveniently put the entire pick and choose argument in one comment. Well, I know the difference between what is real and what it was then and what is now, and what is allegory and what is symbolic, and God helps me to figure out which is which. Oh, really now? So now you're telling me that there's certain parts of the Bible that are true and certain parts of the Bible that is a lie, which I remember I asked you point blank, so does that mean the Bible lied? Because you had said, I had mentioned how God had sent bears to kill off a bunch of kids who were making fun of a prophet, and then you go, well, that's just a Hebrew story. That's not true. So I asked you, so does that mean that the Bible has a fictional, is lying then? You never answered that question. I mean, it's interesting. And you were saying, well, it's symbolic, it's allegory. What? Okay. The Bible is supposed to be the unadulterated truth of God. What kind of symbolism or allegory can you get when someone says someone made fun of X prophet and God himself sent the bears to kill the kids? Now, are you trying to tell me that the person decided to make some fake story about what would happen if you make fun of God? People make fun of God all the time today. I don't see bears mauling people. And even if it was just symbolic, that's some effed up morality that a bunch of kids would get killed by bears for making fun of someone. But I'm going off topic. The topic is how you like to, it's the whole, if it sounds good in the Bible, it's true. And if it's inconvenient for my belief, then it must be untrue or an allegory or a story. Look, man, if you're going to be going into that defense, that means we can't take your creationist argument about, you know, Genesis being the truth of the earth seriously, because we can easily say, well, isn't that symbolic? How do you know for sure it's symbolic? Oh, wait a minute, your telepathic link between you and God, which you can't prove. None of this stands up to logic, and all these things that have been presented as you presented to us, you've never came up with any evidence for it. Showing the Bible is not evidence, because people have torn the Bible apart over and over again. The history of the Bible, which you really need to look up, shows how it's a flawed document. If you're going to be coming with concrete evidence, you need to come with evidence outside of your religious teachings that support what you're saying. You haven't done that yet. All you've shown is ignorance. And we're trying to get you to see your ignorance so you can stop being ignorant.